Texas Tech.
Texas Tech.
Texas Tech.
Texas Tech announced a $200 million investment into its football program. The donation, the largest in the program's history, is centered on two projects.
Very recently, on the arid ground of West Texas, one of the most hostile stadiums in college football underwent a true transformation. But from the outside, you'd never know it, because most of that change is hidden from sight. With a 4-story glass-wrapped football complex embedded directly into the stadium itself, a massive video board stretching nearly the width of a basketball court, and an elevated sky bridge connecting the stands to a cutting-edge training center the size of a small city, Texas Tech is setting a new benchmark for functionality in college football, and perhaps even beyond. And since the gates open, one question has lingered. Does this massive investment actually create a competitive edge, or just look good on paper? It's time to take a closer look at Lubbock's new gamble, one that, much like the Red Raiders' most recent season, proves that efficiency can be the most powerful weapon of all. Jones AT&T Stadium has never been about luxury. When it opened in 1947, it was a straightforward concrete venue built to give a young Texas Tech football program a home of its own. Over the decades, it grew in pieces rather than through sweeping reinvention. Upper decks added, end zones enclosed, capacity expanded. By the early 2000s, it had become one of the loudest and most intimidating environments in college football, a place where visiting teams struggled with the noise, the wind, and the distance from everywhere else. But atmosphere alone eventually stopped being enough. By the late 2010s, college football had entered a new phase. Recruiting battles were no longer won solely on tradition, coaching, or game day energy. They were being decided behind the scenes, inside locker rooms, training facilities, recovery suites, and player lounges. Programs in college football's top conferences were building integrated football complexes that blurred the line between college and professional sports. Texas Tech, despite its passionate fan base and consistent competitiveness, was starting to feel that gap. The problem wasn't performance on Saturdays. It was everything that happened the other 6 days of the week. Texas Tech's football operations were spread out. Training spaces, offices, meeting rooms, and player amenities lacked the cohesion found at newer facilities across the country. Recruits touring Lubbock could feel the difference immediately. Jones AT&T Stadium felt increasingly like a product of another era. That reality forced a difficult question. How do you modernize without erasing the identity that made the stadium special in the first place? The answer wasn't a new stadium. It was a fundamental rethinking of how the existing one worked. Texas Tech turned to Populous, the global architecture firm behind some of the most influential stadiums and sports facilities in the world. Their task wasn't to chase a spectacle for its own sake, but to solve a functional problem: how to integrate football operations, player development, and recruiting into the stadium footprint without disrupting the game day atmosphere fans cherished. Early planning centered on the south end zone. Historically, it had been one of the least developed areas in the stadium. Important structurally, but underwhelming experientially. Populous identified it as the ideal location to anchor a vertical football complex that could serve players year-round while enhancing rather than overpowering the stadium's presence. At the same time, the vision expanded beyond the stadium walls. Texas Tech wanted a dedicated football center that would reflect how the modern game is actually played, indoors as much as outdoors, with equal emphasis on recovery, nutrition, film study, and mental preparation. The result was a dual-focus plan: transform the south end zone into a football operations hub and connect it to a purpose-built performance facility designed for the demands of today's athletes. On paper, the vision was bold. In reality, it would require reshaping an active stadium, syncing multiple facilities into a single system, and doing it without silencing one of college football's most hostile environments. How Texas Tech pulled that off is where the real story begins. Construction officially began in December 2022, immediately after the football season ended. From day one, the strategy was clear: build vertically, build efficiently, and keep the stadium operational. That decision shaped nearly every engineering and logistical choice that followed. The south end zone became ground zero. The new four-story structure rose directly from the existing stadium footprint, requiring careful demolition of legacy components without destabilizing surrounding sections. One of the first technical hurdles involved integrating modern loads into an older structure. The original stadium had never been designed to carry the weight of a vertically stacked operations hub. Engineers reinforced foundations and connection points, ensuring the new structure could handle not just static loads, but vibration, crowd movement, and long-term wear. Inside the stadium-facing portion of the complex, construction crews built spaces that serve vastly different purposes but had to coexist seamlessly. Player locker rooms were positioned for fast, direct access to the field. Coaches' offices and meeting rooms were stacked above, requiring acoustic separation so film study and strategy sessions wouldn't bleed into the chaos of game day. Recruiting lounges, designed to impress, were placed where glass walls could frame the field below, blending recruiting spaces directly into the game day environment. Glass became one of the project's defining materials. Large curtain wall sections were installed to create visual transparency between the interior and the field. But in West Texas, glass isn't just an aesthetic decision, it's an engineering risk. Heat gain, glare, and thermal performance all had to be controlled. Specialized glazing systems and shading strategies were used to balance visibility with energy efficiency, ensuring spaces stayed usable year-round without becoming climate liabilities. The south end zone now houses 17 luxury suites, roughly 500 club and loge box seats, and a 12,000 square foot premium field-level club, all stacked within the four-story stadium structure and oriented directly toward the field. These premium areas feature climate-controlled interiors, private seating, dedicated concourses, upscale food and beverage service, and uninterrupted sightlines to the action. Just beyond the stadium walls, and directly connected to the south end zone, the Dustin R. Womble Football Center emerged as a purpose-built performance engine. The two structures are physically linked by a sky bridge, allowing seamless movement between football operations, training, and game day spaces. Unlike the Stadium Renovation, which had to work within an existing shell, this facility offered far greater freedom, along with higher expectations. Together, the South End Zone Complex and the Womble Center form a single, integrated football environment. Across this connected complex, the renovation delivered several defining interior spaces. The Scoville Family Locker Room, located within the South End Zone, was designed as a centralized, modern hub for player preparation. The facility also includes the Spike Dykes Team Meeting Room, a central space for full team meetings, film sessions, and pre-game preparation. Nearby, a multi-purpose walkthrough room features a wall-length digital display that simulates opponent formations, allowing coaches and players to rehearse alignments and game situations in a controlled setting. Combined with the connected Dustin R. Womble Football Center, the overall development now spans more than 300,000 square feet, positioning Texas Tech among the largest continuous football complexes in the country. The redesign also introduced a new player runout sequence, linking interior football operation spaces to the field. Players now move through a premium interior zone and into a fully illuminated tunnel, turning the transition from locker room to field into a deliberate visual moment rather than a purely functional passage. Inside the Dustin R. Womble Football Center, the weight room became the centerpiece. Designed to be one of the largest collegiate weight rooms in the country, the space required reinforced floors capable of handling extreme equipment loads and simultaneous athlete use. Ceiling heights were maximized to accommodate Olympic lifting platforms and overhead training systems. Every detail, from circulation paths to sightlines, was engineered to keep athletes moving efficiently without bottlenecks. Just steps from the training floor, a dedicated nutrition and fueling area allows players to refuel immediately after workouts, reinforcing the center's fully integrated performance model. Beyond strength training, the Womble Center places heavy emphasis on recovery and sports science. Hydrotherapy pools, cold and heat immersion areas, treatment rooms, athletic training spaces, and sensory deprivation beds designed to support mental and physical recovery were clustered to minimize travel time between sessions. Player-focused amenities, including an on-site barbershop and dedicated wellness spaces, were integrated alongside these recovery areas to support the daily routines of modern athletes. These are spaces fans never see, but they are where modern football programs now invest their competitive edge. Alongside the structural renovation, Texas Tech upgraded Jones AT&T Stadium's in-bowl technology through a partnership with Daktronics, installing 3 new LED video displays and 5 ribbon boards around the seating bowl. The centerpiece is an extended north end zone video board measuring approximately 37.2 feet tall and 139.4 feet wide, nearly the width of a basketball court laid on its side. 2 additional south end zone corner displays, each roughly 27 feet high by 48 feet wide, were integrated into the new south end zone structure, providing improved sightlines from multiple seating angles. Audio was upgraded in parallel, with a new sound system installed by Claire Audio, designed to improve clarity and coverage across the bowl while maintaining intelligibility even at peak crowd noise. A particularly sensitive component of the technology upgrades involved the Double T scoreboard, one of the most recognizable visual symbols inside Jones AT&T Stadium. As part of the Daktronics-led project, the original Double T structure was removed and replaced with an updated LED version. The decision was closely watched by fans, as the Double T carries strong symbolic weight tied to Texas Tech tradition. Rather than eliminating it, the university chose to modernize the board's technology while retaining its familiar form. By late summer 2024, just ahead of the season opener, major portions of the project were functionally complete, allowing the stadium to operate as planned. Work continued behind the scenes, with final interior spaces and the connected Dustin R. Womble Football Center reaching full completion and official opening status in early 2025. Interior finishes were finalized, systems commissioned and tested, and spaces long envisioned on paper began operating as a single, fully integrated ecosystem. The transformation was complete, but the real test hadn't arrived yet, because once the lights came on and the crowd returned, the question wasn't whether the project looked impressive, it was whether all this infrastructure would actually change what happened on Saturdays. When Texas Tech unveiled the renovation, the reaction was immediate and largely positive. Players and recruits saw a program that finally looked the part of a modern powerhouse. Coaches gained a centralized, efficient environment built for preparation, not patchwork. And fans, while aware that much of the investment wasn't aimed directly at them, understood the long game being played. Because this project was never about spectacle, it was about leverage. The $242 million renovation was funded through a mix of private donations, athletic department revenue, and long-term university-approved financing, with major philanthropic gifts playing a central role. Naming gifts, most notably the Dustin R. Womble Football Center, helped anchor the project financially while reinforcing donor confidence in the program's direction. A significant portion of the project was supported by Cody Campbell, a Texas Tech alumnus and former football player, whose $25 million donation played a key role in the renovation. In recognition of that contribution, the playing surface was formally named Cody Campbell Field at Jones AT&T Stadium. Importantly, Texas Tech framed the investment not as a sunk cost, but as a revenue-generating asset designed to pay dividends over decades. Premium suites, club areas, and donor spaces inside the south end zone now provide new streams of high-margin revenue. Recruiting success strengthens ticket demand. Stronger rosters bring bowl appearances, media exposure, and conference relevance. In modern college football, facilities don't just support success, they help fund it. Public opinion followed a familiar pattern. Some questioned the scale of spending in an era of rising tuition and shifting academic priorities. Others argued that in a landscape dominated by the SEC and Big Ten, standing still would have been the greater risk. Locally, and among alumni, the prevailing sentiment leaned toward pride. Texas Tech wasn't chasing nostalgia, it was choosing relevance. Will elite facilities alone guarantee championships? No stadium ever has, but they remove excuses. They close gaps, and they give programs the tools required to compete when opportunity finally arrives. For Texas Tech, this renovation wasn't about rewriting history. It was about making sure the future doesn't pass them by. Under the lights, in the heat, and in the unforgiving arena of modern college football. Whether it truly succeeds, only time will tell. Ready to be amazed by the next groundbreaking construction project? Click on the video now and dive into a world where engineering and imagination collide. See you there!